Today, the Nigerian Senate began the screening of ministerial nominees, asking 3 of them to simply take a bow and go, since they were former lawmakers. And also, the federal government is considering prescribing the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, IMN. However, some of the lawmakers have expressed their disagreement, saying that dialogue is a better route to take. Well, this is Plus Politics, and I am Maryann Okon. President Muhammadu Buhari submitted a list of 43 ministerial nominees for the Senate yesterday. And today, the Senate has commenced the screening of these nominees for confirmation. The screening and confirmation of ministerial nominees is according to Section 147, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution. Among those who have been screened are George Akume, Godswill Akpabio, Rotimi Amechi, and Ogbonnaya Onu. However, Nigerians have questioned the absence of portfolios on the names that have been submitted, saying also that some of the nominees, particularly those who have served in the Nigerian Assembly, were told to take a bow and go. Why? I wonder. How would we know their competences? And to put the icing on the cake, it has been said that the younger, newer nominees were grilled endlessly. The question once again is why? Well, joining me to maybe answer the why is Mr. Rashid Adegbero. He is a public affairs analyst and is also from the Center for Values in Leadership. It's good to have you join us there. Right. So there are so many whys today, but let's start with these nominees. The very first one I watched was Okechukwu Oga. He is from Anambra, I guess, and he has worked in the oil and gas sector. He's also worked mostly in the banking sector. He has a pretty interesting background. But guess what? The first question the first thing that we noticed was that because he was young, he was getting too much flack. As a distinguished senator of this country actually stood up to ask a very interesting question, asking when he was born, looking at his CV and when he started work, trying to somewhat, for some people, they thought they were trying to belittle him to say, hey, we've been here before you, so what can you really offer? And then we also had the National Assembly members who had to take a bow and leave, you know. There's so many questions. Let's start with the non-attachment of portfolios to these nominees. I don't understand why that is.
I believe it's wrong not to attach the portfolios. It's historical. This is what we experienced over the years. And if you are not able to pencil the portfolio a nominee will occupy, then it's a waste of effort and resources screening such people or interviewing them. You can only interview them for the job they will do. Mm-hmm. So I think Mr. President has not done the nation a good job by departing from this old stereotype culture, mm-hmm. or just forwarding the names and leaving the posting to take effect after they have been approved. You should know what positions they will occupy, and that will prepare the Senate to be able to screen properly who these nominees really are in terms of expected performance of duty.
It makes me really concerned, especially where there are no portfolios, because the members of the National Assembly have to ask random questions. And for those who were watching, it was difficult to watch because they were just random questions. And there were a lot of probability questions, like if you were to be a minister for commerce or trade and investment. And sometimes maybe those people are not necessarily going to be in those offices. So it makes it look like a fruitless effort. So how do we as Nigerians and the members of the National Assembly get to actually know how competent these people are? Because there are people who might have been medical, let's say the medical heads in NNPC, and somebody just sees an NNPC in their CV and then asks them an oil and gas question.
I think the onus is on the National Assembly to do its job very well. If Mr. President had made error in sending lists names without portfolio, then the responsibility of the National Assembly to send the list back and ask that portfolios should be attached for them to do a proper job. But in times past, and this present case we are reviewing, is the old order. They don't ask questions. So how do you prepare them? Or how do you prepare your questions? So National Assembly should have insisted that when the list is coming, the portfolios should be attached. Where that is missing, the Assembly has the right to send the list back to the presidency.
We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue on this issue about the screening, because I have questions as to the Senate being more of the APC and in previous governments being more of the PDP, hence the reason why questions are not asked. But we'll be back after this break. Stay with us. Well, you're still watching Plus Politics, and we're looking at the screening of ministerial nominees so far on the floor of the National Assembly. As we speak, it's still going on, by the way. But we are being joined right now in the studio by Sam Adeleke. He's a political analyst. Thanks, Sam, for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Good evening.
Glad you made it. So before you came, we were analyzing some of the questions that people have been asking as to these nominees. First things first, on the list, all we have are the names of these nominees and the states that they represent, but no portfolios. And one would wonder, how do you screen? Let's paint a picture, and then you help me answer. For example, you're a Nigerian youth, and you have come to Maryann group of companies, and we have different departments, and I'm interviewing you. And then I just say, oh, you speak great English. And then I just ask you all kinds of questions, medical questions. I ask you about oil and gas. And then I just say, take a bow and go. And I've not told you what department I'm going to put you in. Even you as a person would leave that interview confused, wouldn't you?
Well, if I were a Nigerian politician, I'll be happy.
It depends.
because
Why would you be happy?
Nigerian politicians do not see a sense of urgency. I watched the entire screening today, and it felt like a charade. It felt like a joke of a nation. It felt like people who just came, felt like parakpo, so to speak, in quotes. Felt like a gathering of people.
For those who don't know what parakpo means.
Parakpo is a Yoruba word for, oh my God.
People have an understanding of sorts.
Well, you know, getting together, you know, our tribes, my people, so to speak, you know, it didn't feel like a panel or a set of people who wanted to rescue the nation. And that these are the people who have been chosen by the president, and these are people who had 4 years, people who should be asked questions ranging from the Shiites uprising to the...
How do you ask questions? Because these questions are supposed to be targeted. How do you ask intelligent questions when you don't know who's going to be where?
Interesting.
And how do you also assess their performance, or how they will perform, and their level of understanding of the job that's ahead of them?
Nigeria oftentimes breaks your heart, and you want to just get angry. But at the point, you have to change that anger into compassion, because it's unfortunate that many of us are still disappointed at this current president. We all saw his own Q&A with Kadaria Mohammed during the elections. And we could see the output of somebody who wanted to come for a second term, and Nigerians gave him the mandate. So if he's giving us this kind of output, giving us this suspense-filled intrigues, this drama, you know, after so many months, 3-4 months, and we have a list, we don't know who is who, and now we are being, you know, tossed around in the dark. So you're right, everyone should ask the president and his team, what exactly are you doing? It appears this is the biggest scam that has been sold to Nigerians since independence, because we expected something different. You came up with a very beautiful campaign slogan, the next level. This is not any, this is below level, this is previous level. Okay. And now the solution to this, because while we're analyzing and looking at how we are not being treated a fair deal, is can we also have what we call a shadow cabinet? the opposition in other climes.
Well, I think that
now
happens,
shadow cabinet is simply
in the UK.
Yes, and we need to replicate success. Look at people that are doing things right. I want the shadow
but
cabinet.
they run a parliamentary system.
Well, we can also
have here.
And see, these things are not cast in stone. We can also have a shadow cabinet or a shadow parliament, whereby the opposition, the group of people, allocates portfolios to yourselves, even though you're not government in power, and then do things right. So as they are having their own real-time screening, let's also have something similar, and then the world is watching. We are showing them how things should be done. Because if you're just criticizing without providing an alternative, you're not giving us something to look for in 2023. Because right now, it's too late to to cry over spilled milk.
Let me come to you, Mr. Adebunru, and this is because you've probably been around longer than he and I. We can't really. But seriously, there has to be. I try not to look at things from the surface. You know, this is an after effect of something that had gone wrong, or something that the foundation had been laid for. This is not just about the Buhari administration. This seems to be something that has been happening in the Nigerian Senate since we started this thing we call a democracy.
1999.
Why have we not, as Nigerians, probed this process up until now? Is it because the president in power has somewhat done some things that we don't agree with? I mean, so same for other presidents. Why haven't we probed it until he has come to this? I'm wondering, why didn't the National Assembly send that list back to Mr. President and say, we need to see what designations these people have? And then that way, it looks like the National Assembly is doing their job. Why?
I think the National Assembly and the opposition main party in the National Assembly is weakened because of precedence. Having failed in times past to question the rationale behind ministerial lists without portfolio in times past, it will be strange to see them do that now, to turn to politics.
Why would it be strange if we're saying we're bringing change to the country?
Didn't do it. Well, like I said in our informal discussion, what we expect of the Senate is the highest level of maturity. If you elected the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we expect the highest level of maturity from you. It's not a party issue, it's the future and development of Nigeria. So if the president decides to go with the old culture, the new team in the Senate have the right to say no. We want a break. This is following the mantra of change. We need a break. We will not treat this list until we have the portfolios attached.
Of course, we will hear that this is the politicization of the whole process.
If they insisted on that, I have a strong belief that the nation will go with them. And popular opinion eventually will make Mr. President to reverse his position, as has done in one or two cases in times past. So the Senate had failed the nation by not standing firm on what should be, but deciding to go with the old norm of you can have the list, you have to post them, it's relevant to us. I think on that score, they failed the nation.
Let's talk about the whole take a bow and leave situation, which Nigerians on social media today have been probing. But of course, the National Assembly also has that excuse of, oh, it's the House style. This is how we do it. So if you have served in any capacity on the floor of the National Assembly, whether the red or the green chambers, or at the local level, you are a compatriot. You're part of the family. So you're in-house. Yes. You know. So all they do is just
give you a few
give speeches about how great you have been, or that they know you, and then they say take a bow. So again, if, for example, we were operating on a system where everybody has a portfolio and we're questioning you based on those portfolios, and then it got to these persons, like the former governor of Rivers State, who was also a right honorable member of the House of Assembly, talking about Senator, is it Chachakume? No.
You mean Rotimi Amici?
No. We had other senators who were also, and then there's a serving House of Rep member who was also presented today. All of those people were asked to go bow and leave. How do you tell if those people are capable of doing the job? How do you tell?
You can't, because if you don't ask me, I won't tell. And I will be comfortable hiding under that toga of comradism, so to speak, of comradeship, of brotherhood. And it's a disservice to the country. It's a disservice to our nationhood. Nigeria is not growing. Our economy is growing at a very slow pace. And these people had the opportunity to tender their CVs, tender their plans, showcase what they have to show the nation. Now, for example, the former Minister of Science and Technology, that's Mr. Maryann, who was being questioned based on his last portfolio. Now, he said something which we all probably will have loved to hear, and which we wanted to hear, that, you know, Nigeria, or he will create 2 agencies that will focus on artificial intelligence and robotics. Now, what if, like you said, the president doesn't appoint to that same ministry? So you're just telling us what we want to hear, and we are not being put on the spot. There's really no solid grilling. There's no excellence at play. It's simply mediocrity. And one expects that this president and the cabinet will show leadership, give us something new. So right now, we are disadvantaged. We don't know what to expect. We are currently in a state of limbo. We are in suspense. We are at the mercy of whatever the president chooses to do, and doesn't send us, unfortunately.
Let's talk about young people. We had, in quote, 2 young persons on that list, 2 young nominees. And that's Okechukwu Oga and a lady from the north part of the country. And they're not necessarily young in age, but they were the youngest considering the number of people, the ages of the people on that list. Particularly Oga was being grilled over, the bullets came from north, south, east and west, literally. And before you got here, I was telling Mr. Degbenro that Senator actually asked him what year he was born, looking at your CV here. And for some people, they felt that he was being belittled and was, you know, being questioned overly because he was young or maybe a newcomer. But also looking at women, young people and women on that list, did we see a change of any sorts on that list?
Nope.
Or a next level?
There is none.
Compared to what we had?
There is none. Unfortunately, when the lady came in, the first lady that was screened today, and the Senate president sent him something which was very heartbreaking. He said, we're a very gender-sensitive chamber, and because of this, we would not want to stress you, I'm paraphrasing now, or allow you to go through too much stress. My honorable members, will you like us to allow her to bow and go?
And so that belittles,
and they all said,
belittles the idea of
gender equity.
Yes, equity.
And also
because
trying to...
I'm guessing that, you know, if she was picked by Mr. President, Mr. Degbenro, she was brought there based on competence, not because she was a woman, right?
Experience.
So why do we have just a few women on this list? We were hoping that Mr. President was going to give us a next level, which would be double the number of women. Do you think maybe we don't have enough competent women?
What we're expecting will have been 35%.
Or maybe above, since we're talking next level.
Rwanda had 50% representation.
But this time around, out of the 43 names submitted, only 7 or so.
Only 7, yeah.
Which is less than 20%. It's a clear sign that this cabinet has missed the train. On almost all scores, things are not right with this cabinet. The screening process is not too good to give us to throw the best for Nigeria. The absence of portfolios before the list went to the assembly missing is also another negative point. The lack of gender sensitivity is also not a plus point for Mr. President. You can go on and go and on and on.
And young people would also say that they're not necessarily represented.
The same thing. If you want a break from the past, the team that's on the ground today, that team has little or no contribution to the future.
Quickly, because we don't have time, I'll give you 1 minute each. Where does that leave us as a country? Because this is supposed to be next level for us. This is supposed to be a new dawn, in a sense, to borrow Mr. President's, statements. So where do we go from here the next 4 years if we, from what you have said, looks like it's going to be a blurry future? What do we do?
Very likely. I've always believed taking a look at the past cabinets we have in the history of this country since independence. The ministerial team, to me, is ceremonial. That's why government are not taking serious position on getting the real material, the round pegs to fill round holes. Escape way, if you ask me, is to strengthen our public service sector. The civil service that is strengthened, that will provide the continuity we expect in policy and programs, is the backbone of government, either military or civilian. I think we should place less emphasis on the ministers and focus more on strengthening and deepening the power and strength of the civil service.
Okay, Mr. Dinike.
I will call on civil society to increase the tempo and the pressure of accountability for the next 4 years. Don't let these gentlemen and women that have been appointed rest one day. Every of their moves should be questioned. Every of their moves should be probed and interrogated. People need to answer to whatever actions are going to be taken, because apparently this is a compensation list. People are being rewarded for loyalty. This is not about loyalty to the nation.
But it's a political appointment.
Of course, but then Nigeria should come first, even though you are loyal to your party. So civil society should go the extra mile starting from today. That's one. Second, I believe also that every political party in Nigeria should set up shadow cabinets and start showing Nigerians how things should be done. Don't just complain. As they are bringing out one policy, bring out your own policy and put it out in the media. Let people see alternatives.
Should these other political parties not be doing that if only they know what the right thing is? Because
well,
it looks like all of these political parties, we've tried all of them, haven't we?
Yes.
It's the same thing.
It's
so
work.
Do they really know what's best or what's right?
Well, it's our responsibility to also let them know that, see, you are telling us that you are alternatives. You're telling us that we should vote for you in the incoming election. So do what you want us to vote. Rehearse the future. That is it. Show us what you can do starting from now. Okay,
well, thank you very much, Rashid Adegbero, Public Affairs Analyst, and he's also of the Center for Values in Leadership. And we also have Sam Adeleke, Political Analyst. We'll be back after this break, and when we return, we'll be talking about a debate on the ground, which means that the president is somewhat tinkering with the idea of prescribing the IMN, and there are people also on the other hand who are saying dialogue is the way out. We'll be back to talk more on that issue. Stay with us.